Bella's Vistas. Thanks for visiting. Please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. We reached our destination of Glacier Park, and we're driving Logan's Pass from west to east. We spent 3 or 4 days here so we could get different photographs from different directions, because sometimes things look totally different depending which way the sun is going. Look at the mountains in the background. I haven't seen any glaciers yet, but there must be some. See a little river down in the valley, reminds me of the Grand Canyon. We're driving along these winding roads, and they're pretty scary because you look down and wow. And it seems like the roads are fairly wide enough so you can clear your mirrors. I'm really afraid that I'm going to scrape the side of the van on these rocks, but I didn't. I talked to a guy who was driving a Sprinter van, and he said he certainly wouldn't have wanted to have been driving anything bigger on Logan's Pass. It's pretty amazing looking at these mountains off in the distance. It was overcast the first day. There were a lot of clouds over top of the mountains, so I had to pick my locations carefully for photographs. Here I'm walking back from getting a couple shots off in the distance. It's great fun. Very dangerous too. There's the photograph. I think it was well worthwhile. You can see some detail in the clouds. It's all got to do with exposure and timing and everything. There's that river in the valley. It reminds me of the Grand Canyon in some ways. It's a little bit like Hawaii too, with these peaks and green. There's some glaciers up on the mountains there on the left. Look at this, wow. A lot of mountains and some really, really interesting terrain. It's different from any mountain range I've been in. I'm getting lots of different photographs with some foreground framing and the distance aerial perspective, trying to bring some depth into things. Now we're cruising down the road again, and what's that ahead? We got to drive through another tunnel. There's lots of tunnels in this park, and there's bicycles too you got to watch for. Went through the tunnel, coming around again. Look at the traffic coming at us and how narrow the road really is. You can see there's not a lot of room. That guy's hugging the yellow line pretty good. Another shot off in the distance. This is still from Logan's Pass, and there's the glaciers off on the left. It's just beautiful. I'm really impressed. I've seen lots of different places, and everything has its own unique flavor. I'm loving it here. Getting lots of different photographs. Here I'm trying to use some aerial perspective and relative position on a two-dimensional plane to bring some depth. Look at the mountain with the clouds capping it. That is very ethereal, and that brings some depth into the photographs without me having to do anything. Just a beautiful day. Even though it was cloudy and overcast, sun came out sometimes. Now we went back another day. We stayed in town and we came back for our second bash at it. And we got bright, clear skies. Look at that, totally different. You'd almost wish for maybe a little bit more clouds, but there's the cruise boat taking people for a tour of the fjord. I don't know if it's a fjord, but if it's done by a glacier, it could well be a fjord out here. There's a fjord in Newfoundland where you take a boat cruise like that. Here I just finished making a little bit of a video talking about photographic equipment. Lots of more mountains. It's totally different with the sun on it. It's like just an altogether different place. There you can see some of the mountain roads. The third day was really good as well. Wow. Lots of different light. Driving along here. And yeah, the roads are just as narrow as they seem. It's kind of scary because, wow, look at that. Huge buses, and you can just barely have enough room around some of the corners. Sometimes I actually stopped when I thought I might be crowding the guys on the other side, if there was a really big rig right on the yellow line or close to the yellow line. but it was uneventful as far as accidents went. I got a lot of nice photographs and I didn't hit anything, so that's a good day. Some more glacier action here. Look at that off in the distance. The pine trees are growing straight and tall. Unbelievable. Look at the angle of the ground they're growing on. Look at the strata and the rocks. Mountains off in the distance. Wow. It's amazing. Here we're back at that little river again. I wanted to try and get a sharper shot of that. Look at the pine trees. See how they're growing up the hill. They're vertical, but the hill certainly isn't. Mountains off in the distance. There's still a bit of a haze there going on. Here's our van parked beside a waterfall. It was pretty cool there. Nice mountains off in the distance. Beautiful days. Look at that. Wow. What a road. You can see what you're up against. Now we're going through another tunnel here. I put the lights on, lift up my sunglasses, and watch. Gotta make sure everybody's got enough room. If there's a bicycle in there, you give them a whole lane. You just follow behind them until you get through and you got room to pass. Definitely have to be very careful driving these roads. It's not so bad when you're wide awake and fresh, but the first time I came through here, I was a little bit tired. Now, I wasn't exhausted, but it was very stressful. So I recommend you have a fresh start at these things, not hit it in the afternoon. Better to be there first thing in the morning when you're fresh and drive through there. The light was so much better, too, in the morning. Now, look at all the congestion here. This is the summit of Logan's Pass, and there's a ranger station here. Just look how busy it is. Everybody wants to get into the washrooms and whatnot, maybe pick up a map, check things out. Here the van is parked behind the mountain. Beautiful place to look around. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend Glacier Park. It's quite a drive to get here, and when you get here, look at the drive you're up against. I mean, honestly, there was only a couple inches for the mirrors in some places. The road's wet. There's not a lot of lines either. A lot of times there's no lines on the road. You got to really be careful. And there's rocks. Rocks could slide off there too and come down. That's possible. You've got no control over anything like that. You just have to trust your luck. But wow. This was really wet at the side of the road. I think this was called Weeping Wall. Look at the turns around here. Really got to keep your wits about you, because the roads are just about as narrow as they look, and you really want to be careful. It looks like I'm driving on the yellow line, but I'm not. That's just where my dash cam is. Mary's shooting some footage here with her phone just to show you over the side of the rail. That's what happens if you go over there. You'll be rolling for quite a while. It's a great drive, though. It's really exciting, to drive through there. I met lots of people. There's the waterfall beside the van. Water just coming right out of the rock. I don't know how it happens, but it must come in higher up. Mountain Springs. Now we're out of the park. It's flat. We left Glacier Park and we're headed to Many Glacier. That's another part of the park, actually. It's part of Glacier Park, but it's called Many Glacier. We're driving along here. It's quite a little drive, too. I think it was like 60 miles or something like that. It was very nice. The roads are not good. Really, really bumpy. We had a good night's sleep, though. We camped out beside a river and a lake. I wanted to get some star trails, but there was some lights, navigation lights. Driving along here, it's a bumpy road. There it is ahead of us, Many Glacier Park. There's a blue truck ahead of us. We're just going to follow him and watch for the bumps. Believe me, there's lots of bumps. Well, there's our first shot of Many Glacier Park. I pulled over by the dam and took a few shots with a very long lens, then a bit wider lens. And I used polarizers and I used HDR to bring out as much detail as I could in the rocks. Look at this gnarly old tree up against the rocks here. I really like things like that. The juxtaposition of wood and rock. This tree here, wow, it kind of reminds me a bit of bristlecone trees. There's the glacier off in the distance again. The park was just great. Everybody was friendly, everybody's having a great time. There was a little waterfall in the foreground. Here I just parked the van so I could get a shot of the van in the park. Here's the sign for Glacier National Park. I thought it would say Many Glacier Park, but it just says Glacier National Park. Thanks for visiting Bella's Vistas. Please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell.